Hi, hello everybody, welcome in. My name is Jer, and today we are talking about Canada's Drag Race Season 5, Episode 7, The Devil Wore Custom. Mama, we got a lot to break down and talk about. I have to say, I love design challenges. I love construction challenges. I love seeing the creativity. There's this kind of constant problem that exists among the drag community where people have a very specific aesthetic and they have designers and teams that help them out, whether that be a partner who's really good at sewing and the queen is the one who is designing the looks, like we saw with Nane Sphera in Drag Race Thailand, or other queens that are really great at what they do. They're the entertainer, but there are people that help them in the background. So that happens in the drag scene. And when we get to Drag Race, there's this growing problem where some queens don't really know how to apply their personal aesthetics to a design challenge, and you theoretically should be able to make your vision happen if you're in a pinch, especially if you go to a competition, regardless of your skill level. So it's always really exciting for me to see how the queens take their own personal aesthetics and apply that to the challenge or kind of miss the mark pretty hard. There's also a lot of drama that happens this episode, and I want to discuss that in detail. I just want to say, please be kind to all parties involved, because we were not actually in the room. We were not there with the queens. We don't know the full level of untucked that happened, the full conversation. We will never know what really happened, because at this point, it's all they said, and we only saw 10 to 12 minutes of a very long, I imagine, situation. Probably an hour and a half to 2 hours. So please be kind to Michaela and Xana, especially to Michaela. The community can be pretty toxic when it comes to people of color, and I don't want to see any of that nonsense, especially in the comments. For the love of God, just be kind. I grabbed a second cup of coffee for this one, so let's get into it. I'm still really gagged that Uma is gone, but I agree with what a lot of people said. That bottom three is who it should have been. Everyone's performances, in my opinion, were really solid and good. I don't care what any of y'all have to say about that. That snatch game was funny. There were two very clear, obvious bottoms, and then the runway sort of solidified where everyone panned out. I think ultimately the biggest problem last week was with the reading challenge, and I think people were so upset about how bad that was that energy carried into the challenge, and so they unfairly and harshly judged that snatch game because they didn't like what they saw in the reading challenge. The episode was set up that these girls aren't funny, but that snatch game was funny, and I don't care what any of y'all say. As of right now, the wins are pretty evenly distributed, and I like seasons like this where there's not one particular front runner who's got like 4 challenge wins. Virgo is feeling a little bit upset that they did not get the wooden beaver last week, and I understand on one hand because Virgo's been really nice and has been having everybody's backs and gassing everyone up and isn't really getting that same energy back to them. And they also mentioned clickiness, which I also get. But then on the other hand, Virgo was objectively the worst in the challenge, and I would love to believe that in a fair world situation, even though track record was really good up until that point, Virgo objectively did the worst. Uma did good in the snatch game and looked fine on the runway, and I think in comparison, Uma was the one to have been saved. Realistically, I think in a situation where 2 people bomb that hard in a challenge, it's really hard to justifiably save them. We've seen that through the entire history of the Golden Beaver. Probably the only time where it would have been applicable to maybe save someone that ended up in the bottom would have been Nira, because she did look quite cute, and Melinda got railed on the runway. But that's the only other time I can think of in the history of the Golden Beaver where someone was unfairly put in the bottom. Typically they run by, did you do good or bad in the challenge? If you did fine but not bad, we'll save you, but that doesn't mean anything more than you didn't do the worst. And leaning back in on what I said last week, I feel like they probably should have done Wooden Beaver this week, considering that the first design challenge was a little bit rough. I think that this would have been a completely justifiable week to say, all right, you choose the bottom 3 because probably most people would not have done great, and then call the definitive winner as Minnie. And then last week, Xana still could have been the top or the winner, and then they would have just saved one person. I still stick to the Wooden Beaver was a week too early. They have to do a mini challenge, which is a 15-minute quick drag, which F quick drag, man. I complained constantly in Thailand 3 about these quick drag challenges and that they were 15 minutes each. I hate them so much. But that's fine. I think the premise was cute of being an intern to Brooke and riffing off of Devil Wears Prada as this whole episode was. They made a bunch of callbacks and references, which I enjoyed. And I really enjoyed that there was one question asking about what they would do if Tracy and Brooke were wearing the same thing. Minnie's answer was psychotic and I was obsessed with it, but then they followed through with that mini challenge storyline in the main stage where both of them were wearing the same colors, and being in cerulean was quite cute. I think Brooks may have been a little more on the cobalt side than cerulean, but in any case, I liked it. And that through line is always fun for me, as someone who does like to eagle eye story moments. I love the improv of it all. I enjoy these types of challenges. Minnie killed it for me. Perla was so funny. When asked how she deals with conflict at work, she just cries. Like, that is so relatable and me-coded. I love Perla. And then our main challenge is yet another design challenge with a runway theme. I was so happy. I love design challenges, y'all. I love them. And they're getting advice from Suki Doll as well as a consultation from her where they get 15 minutes to use her in any way they want to try and get their garment constructed. Some of the contestants use their time and energy well with Suki and others didn't. I know my main point with construction is usually in necklines. I have a really hard time getting those looking clean. I did a dress that was a Reba impersonation years ago for a competition. I constructed the whole thing, patterned the whole thing, but I had my sibling who went to fit him finish the neck for me because I'm like, I don't know how to do this properly. It's gonna end up looking like that. So I had them do it for me. And it looked beautiful. I ended up winning that night. The dress was great, but the performance was what really killed it. But if I had gone out with a shoddy neckline, I would have probably not won. A couple of the contestants used Suki to install their zippers, and I thought that was really smart. I think some of them probably should have asked Suki to pattern for them. At the very least, just drawing it on a piece of paper, and then they could do the rest for themselves. Because I think a lot of the construction issues were in patterning. And once again, the contestants were given the advice to drape. And I went on a huge tangent in this during Canada versus the World when that one judge told Tainomi to drape. I was kind of livid because with people who don't know what they're doing or may not be the most proficient with sewing, I think one of the worst advice that you could give them is to tell them an advanced sewing technique. Some people argued that draping is not advanced, that it's really easy, but you have to have a strong understanding of fabrics, of how they lay, of how they set, of how to work with fabric once you've draped it. You can't just stick it on a mannequin and then start sewing. You have to stick it on the mannequin and make pins and small hand stitches and then run it through your sewing machine depending on what you've done, or you need to know how to hand stitch those things so that they lay in place so that when you take it off of your mannequin, it doesn't just fall apart and drape in a way that it wasn't supposed to. That's one of the first things they teach fashion students is how to drape, and that is something that is a little more advanced. You could drape stuff all day long, but if your fabric is laying that way on the mannequin and then is not pinned or stitched correctly, it's not gonna look like that on the runway. So while I understand the advice, I don't think it's good for people who don't quite have the perfect polish for sewing. Does that make sense? I really did enjoy Xana referencing season 13 by saying, putting a drape factory where a drape factory ought to be, referencing Simone from that very first acting challenge, which was an abysmal acting challenge, I should say. And I also love that Brooke actually wore these garments. And the thing for me is that Brooke is someone who's worn every type of silhouette. We've literally seen Brooke in dresses, hat suits, fitted garments. We've seen Brooke in period pieces. We've seen Brooke do high glam, avant-garde. We've seen nearly naked. There's a lot of silhouettes that Brooke has done and pulled off. So I think this is a good challenge to apply your personal aesthetic to Brooke because she can pull off pretty much anything. So let's talk about the very first runway, which was Wardrobe Malfunction. And I recently finished All Stars 6 for my Drag Race podcast, which you can check out that link below. And there was a challenge that was Oops, I Did It Again. And it was kind of the same. It was meant to be like a malfunction or a problem that you wore again and did over. And so this is sort of like ringing that there's too much Drag Race bell again, but I was happy to see this category. Minnie absolutely slayed me the house down. I love that the skirt actually stood up on its own. There had to have been some type of mechanism at the bottom, like a L-shaped thing that squeezes in on itself so that when the skirt goes up, it locks in place like this so that both sides of the fabric are laying up. That was brilliant. Virgo was meant to be a model wearing the wrong dress size. To me, it didn't look like a malfunction, and the judges kind of clocked that as well. The way that the lace was laying in the back looked really high fashion and couture. It looked like a red carpet gown, and I think that was the problem. It didn't look like it was ill-fitting. I think maybe if it had been too big and it was just falling off the whole time and they were just like walking down the runway holding it up or holding it by the strings so that it was as cinched to their body as possible, and then at one point they drop it and oops, my dress came off, pull it up, hold it by the strings again, and then model back down. I think that would have sold the story a bit more, because otherwise it was just really pretty. Helena steps on her dress and then it comes apart, and I loved the sight gag of it all, but then they went to go do a Sasha Velour wig reveal and their scalp comes off with it. This was both horrifying and cool. I love the sort of dark reference, and I've been waiting for Helena to really embrace this sort of oopy spoopy girl that she is, because she really is that girl, and I haven't seen it a ton this season. I'm so glad we got to see something that was genuinely kind of gross and frightening. Xana was going for Jet Set Eleganza, and I liked the idea of what this was supposed to be. I do agree with Serene that the boobs were not great. I mean, they looked a little muppety to me. I think overall, the idea was effective. I think it did give Jet Set. Perla was doing a boozy look to celebrate her sobriety as well as talk about it and bring attention to it. I love the rhinestone bottle. I love the way that the wine stains were going all the way down the dress. I think it met the category. And then Michaela was doing a butterfly catching look, which she said was supposed to reference Asia O'Hara, which I like that idea, and I wish that she had just committed to it regardless. I want to know what the reveal was supposed to be. The back of her dress does rip in half, so she just improvs the rest of it like that was supposed to be the reveal, even though it wasn't. I thought she looked beautiful, really cute. So now let's talk about Brooke's runway. Ooh, I'm excited to talk about this. Brooke comes out first wearing mini wang. Okay, so skirt length, beautiful. I love the asymmetry of this. I think I'm not responding to this particular chiffon color of red. I think if it had been a more crimson, I think maybe that would have brought it to a slightly more elevated place. I think the intensity of that red looks not perfect with her complexion. I think it needs to be a lot darker. I like the styling. I love the bedazzling that's right here in the center. It almost looks like a butterfly. Minnie did a spectacular job constructing this garment. Brooke comes out second wearing the Virgo Queen's garment. This was meant to be an homage for the trans community, and I loved this concept so much. The one thing I was missing was a little bit of the white. I think that could have maybe brought it to the next level. Construction of the top looks like a mistake. And this is what I was talking about with shoddy necklines. This is the same kind of issue, is the neckline is really bad. I love the idea of this sort of sharp line. And if it had been something like this, sort of like Tamisha Iman's shimmery garment from season 13 where it like came up really high and severely. I think if it had that construction, I think this would have looked really, really cool. The pink at the bottom, I think, is a little bit of a problem as well. It's a little too jarring. I don't know how you could save the bottom, but the sleeves are really nice. I love when they connect either the wrist or like the ring finger. That's so cool to me, and I think it works. This is a lot like Michaela's first constructed garment from week 3 or something, is that the idea is that it's so close to being there. It's just not built perfectly. You can tell that this is the first garment that they made, and for the first one, I'm pretty sure they said this is the first they've ever done. This is quite good. When I made my very first garment, it was a train wreck and a disaster. It was literally just like 6 or 7 yards of tulle that were all pinned up and attached to a corset. So like, this is not as bad as it could have been. I agree with Brooke that it does look a little costumey. However, I gotta say, using a crushed velvet for this type of garment was smart because it holds some structure and shape depending on how you sew it. So I think overall, the ideas were solid. Fabric choice was solid. The construction of the sleeves were solid. It just needed a more fine-tuned designing eye. Because I mean, I'll say even the back is so nice. It's a little messy, but it's still nice. And I loved her and Tracy just having a fun time on the runway with this. Brooke comes out third wearing Helena Poison. It is a distressed look, which I have talked many, many, many times about distressed looks. sometimes distressed can look accidental and not purposeful. My only critique of this is that I can't quite tell how much was purposeful and how much was an accident. I think distressing a garment is one of those tricky situations where unless everything is perfect, it can look messy. I think the tulle on the bustle is a little messy, and I think the construction of the breast cups are a little messy. However, I love the ruching that's on the other side of this asymmetrical dress. I think that's stunning. What I think would have maybe brought this to the next level would have been adjust the breast cups just a smidge so that they're a little more circular and a little more flattering to the body. And I think layering up the tulle would have been really nice so that it doesn't just lay there like a flaccid penis. I would have loved if it had been like sort of pinned up, tacked, and then tons and tons of layers on top of each other cascading down. My eye goes straight to those sharp, jagged edges of the white where it hits the black. Maybe even some gray would have been nice to just temper that white. Overall, I love the styling though. I think that is the highest point of this. Next out is Xana's look. Fabric choice, I think, is A+. This is a beautiful color. This is the intensity of red that I needed on minis. With Brooke's complexion, I think bold colors look really good on her, but the more you bring them to the white scale of color, it sort of pops in an unflattering way. This color pops really well on Brooke's skin. I think the asymmetry of it is nice. I think the construction from here all the way down to the skirt is nice. And I like that it's one continuous thought from this shoulder all the way down to the foot. I'm a little bit confused by this sort of sash effect that's happening on the other side, and I think that's where a lot of the problems start. Honestly, if Xana had done what Virgo did with those sleeves that connect maybe to the ring finger and then gone up to the shoulders, that would have super elevated it. And the last thing I have to say is I think the rhinestones are a cool idea, but they look a little bit like googly eyes from far away. It was really mostly the way that the camera caught it. If those had been sort of cascaded right here to sort of emulate Brooke's promo photo from season 11, I think that would have looked better. I think the way that they're attached to this make it look more comedic that it's meant to be, because this gorgeous, gorgeous jewelry that Brooke is wearing is honestly the highlight of this garment. It reminds me a lot of a challenge from, I think, Project Runway season 10 or 11, where they had very expensive jewelry, like $1 million jewels. And the only point of the challenge was to create a dress that complemented the jewelry. If Xana brought this in her package, I wish that the dress had sort of pointed straight to that and just been a super simple silhouette so that the jewelry could be the star of this. That could have brought it to a really cool place. And then the sash sort of eliminated. This could have looked really high fashion and cool. Next, Brooke came out wearing Perla. This cape is like big nut. I love this cape. I love the way that it's draped. I love the way that it's constructed. I love this sort of soft blue, this baby blue, and the way that the white is intermeshed all the way around it. This 1000% could have been the winner if when Brooke turned around, you could not see her panties. This is so perfect. The height and the scale of this neckline I was obsessed with. And then I love the skirt length too, the way that it's just right under where the sensitive bits are. So you get a lot of sexuality and a lot of teasing there, but it doesn't look vulgar. If the back was constructed perfectly and didn't have that mishap, ooh, Brooke could wear this as a premiere look. To be completely honest, I would not be surprised if Suki didn't recreate this in a different color and Brooke wears this again next season, or even like for Canada versus the World 3, because this is so flattering on her. The way that it cascades down like a wave. Oh, she looks so good. This could have been the winner. It was perfect up until the turnaround. And the styling is so simple with just these little pumps in that color. What are the earrings? And those beautiful hoop earrings. This is the second time where Perla's created something where I'm like, damn, that's good. My favorite part was when it flashes to the queens and Michaela's sort of just like smirking and looking at the judges like, do you see the panty? I saw the panty. Speaking of, Michaela is last to be seen. I love the sleeve. My biggest problem is that it looks like you can see the band, the elastic band that keeps this ruching in place. Either that or it's the pearls, but I think the white right here is a little bit distracting para mí. The pearls throughout the dress are really nice. I love the way that it hangs in the front. Not crazy about the nipple pearls, but I'm not mad at it either. I think this is a huge step up from that very first design challenge for Michaela, and she should be so proud of herself for creating this, because it does look very well made. So Minnie wins the challenge and she is soaring. Her star is absolutely on the rise. Cannot wait to see what happens next, because I think she's got a lot of wind behind her. And Virgo and Xana are the very clear bottom two according to the critiques. So should we talk about the fight? So like, everybody's vibing. They're all happy, they're smiling, they're talking about how proud they are. And Xana, as we all saw, brings up that Michaela struggled in her design challenge and that Brooke had an issue with it. And that brings everything from 0 to 100 really quickly. Michaela felt like Xana was intentionally trying to bring her down and tear her down. To me, it came off more like, I'm upset that I'm in the bottom and I'm just trying to suss out if I'm actually gonna be lip syncing because you had construction issues and you had runway issues in a different way that I did, so maybe you're lip syncing over me. That was sort of how I interpreted that. Now I gotta say, I don't think it was the right timing, and I think there's definitely other ways to say that. It's a issue of just tempering what you say. Like, yeah, clearly these two are the top two. Me and Virgo are clearly the bottom. I don't know where Perla and Michaela fall. They could go in either direction. This felt a lot like what the Uma situation was, where she was like, we didn't really know where you were gonna fall. You could have been in the top or the bottom. We don't have any idea. So it almost read to me like that, like you could be in the bottom because Brooke had problems with both of your looks. I understand wanting to bring that up, but I definitely think there's other ways to say that. Ultimately, I think the frustration that I felt from Michaela, I don't know if this is totally my lane to speak on this, and Michaela is someone who can comment and fight her own battles. I think a lot of the frustration that she's probably felt is Michaela is a double minority. She's not only Black, but she's also trans. And those are two very marginalized communities, not only globally, but also within the queer community. There are so many queer people who are downright terribly racist towards Black people. There are people in our own community who are terribly phobic towards trans people. And I would imagine that in your day-to-day life where you're routinely maybe critiqued and criticized and looked down upon and othered as both minorities that you are, when you're in a place like Drag Race, which is meant to uplift you and celebrate your unique perspective on life and in drag, and someone is coming for you, whether they're trying to be malicious or not, it can maybe feel like, damn, again, this is not a safe place for me because I came here to be celebrated and I'm being torn down again, like I am everywhere else. And so I imagine that a lot of that frustration, especially with the first time that Uma brought it up, it can sort of feel like, what do these girls have a problem with me over? I am just trying to do my best. And so I think the anger was justified. I think the frustration was justified. And I appreciate that Xana even brought up, that's not what I was trying to do, I'm so sorry. You can feel however you want to feel, and I would love to try and resolve this at some point. And Michaela needed to sort of process that and feel that. And I'm sure with all the time that's gone by, they've probably kikied, they've probably talked and resolved everything that went on, or at least got to a place where they can comfortably work with each other again. This could be a growing and learning point, and I think on television, people don't always know how they're coming off, and sometimes in social settings, you don't know how you're coming off. I would like one person who's going in on Xana and calling her all kinds of names, with all certainty say that they have never said something that they shouldn't have said, or say something that hurt somebody else's feelings that they didn't mean to do. I know I have said things and done things that damaged someone's soul that I wasn't trying to, I was just frustrated and talking and expressing things. So I took from that and I learned, okay, don't do that again. And honestly, I don't think Xana was being malicious. I would hope that people are going to not try and rip her apart because of a TV moment that we saw, and we don't even get the full picture of all of this, nor do we get a full picture of what happened afterwards. Do I think it was a shitty situation? 100%. Do I think we should extend grace to someone who clearly wasn't trying to be malicious? Sure. I don't think we should forgive the behavior. I think that this is an opportunity to say, okay, learn from this. From what I've seen on Twitter, they seem to be fine with each other. I think as far as TV, this was an excellent TV moment because we have this situation where Michaela is sort of being painted as an underdog. She's got this huge legacy behind her and is feeling all of this insecurity about maybe not doing what Isis would have done while in this competition and is trying to overcome that. So she has this moment where she just feels so frustrated and done and over it, tired of fighting, and she just wants to leave, but then remembers, I keep telling these people I'm a bad bitch, so I'm gonna go in and be a bad bitch. And I'm gonna put everybody in their place and tell them not to disrespect me like this ever again, because I'm good enough and I'm worthy to be here, and I won't let you make me feel like I shouldn't be. And then it's an opportunity for Xana to sort of be like, whoa, that's not what I was trying to do. And then course correct and change behaviors. So I think this was a really excellent TV moment, and I just want all of us to extend grace to people involved and to especially be kind to Michaela, because I've seen some really gross racist narratives about her and the way that she exploded, and she has every justifiable right. So then Xana and Virgo have to lip sync to Taking Chances by Celine Dion. This sucked because I love both of these contestants and I didn't want to see either one of them go home. But at this point, I don't think I want any of them to go home. Every elimination is going to hurt going forward because I like all of them. There's not any one contestant where I think, you shouldn't be here anymore. Where I definitely have felt that in other seasons. Sorry, Spicy Sunshine, you can mute that part of the video. Xana, the production plant, is officially out of the competition and Virgo is still in. We're going into top 5. And the next challenge is an interview style situation. And T.S. Madison is there, which I'm so happy about. I'm trying to think because this is a improv challenge. Michaela and Virgo are probably gonna struggle, where Perla and Minnie are gonna do really good and Helena could go in any direction. So is it gonna be the expected Virgo and Michaela in the bottom and Michaela sends Virgo home? That would be crazy because I don't see Minnie or Perla doing bad in this challenge. Maybe they do and I'm gonna be gagaroni next week, but I don't see them doing bad. And I see Helena literally being any direction. I don't see them getting rid of Michaela. I mean, she'd have to totally flop the lip sync. In any case, thank you for watching this video. I know it was a little bit longer of a video. I will see y'all next week for the next Canada's Drag Race episode. And if you are interested in my thoughts about season 17, which is happening probably right after I finish recording this video, I will be doing that on my Purely Drag channel. Check out my link below and go follow over there. I'm gonna be doing season 17, fashion videos, hot takes, all those drag race ideas over there. I'll still be posting occasional drag race things here, but that won't be the focus of this channel. So if you want more of my thoughts, go over there, go follow that account. For any of the girls that are watching this, please try not to pay too much attention to what people are saying about you, because ultimately at the end of the day, they don't know you. They were not there in the room, and they're sort of just fake supporters if they're gonna make comments to the side. Take care of yourselves, y'all, and I will see y'all on the flip.